Good morning and welcome to today's lesson. We've been looking at equations, and in our previous lesson we looked at solving equations systematically. So when you are having an equation, for instance, we have x plus 3 is equal to 4, and you need to solve the equation systematically. We discovered that this equation only had one step, so that since we are having a plus 3 on the left hand side, I need to get the value of my unknown, which is x. So it means that I'll subtract 3 on both sides, so that I have x plus 3 minus 3 will be equal to 4 minus 3. So subtracting 3 from both sides, you get that you remain with x is equal to 4 minus 3 is 1. So this is systematic way of solving the equations that we have. But this systematic way of solving equation is involving numbers and pronumerals only. Supposing we have a situation whereby we have a fraction, so we need to solve equations that are involving fractions. So that is what I want us to look at today and find out how do you go about when you have equations with fractions. So let us look at the equations with fractions and find out. So one thing we need to note, when we have a fraction, like for instance, we have a over b as our fraction, then this fraction simply implies that it means that we have a divided by b. So when we have a fraction simply means division. So how do we go about when we are having a number and we need an equation that has fractions and we need to solve the given equation? So let us look at how we solve equations that are involving fractions. So we are required to solve each of the equations that we have systematically. And the first equation we have is m over 6 is equal to 2. So m over 6 is equal to 2. Our prenumeral in this case is m, and we need to get the value of m from our equation. So we are having m divided by 6 is equal to 2. For us to get the value of m in this case, it simply means we multiply by 6 on both sides. So the first step that we have is multiplication by 6. Multiply the left hand side by 6, multiply the right hand side by 6, so that we will have m over 6 times 6 will be equal to 2 multiplied by 6. When we multiply by 6 on both sides, this means that 6 and 6 cancels out, and you're left with on the left hand side with m is equal to 2 times 6. From our multiplication tables, we notice that 2 times 6 is 12. So it means the value of m in this given situation is 12. So systematic solution to this given equation is simply multiplication by 6 on both sides. So we are having only one step to be carried out in this given equation. B, we have c over 9 is equal to 2. C over 9 is equal to 2. And we notice that c divided by 9 is equal to 2. For us to get the value of our pronumeral, in this case, the pronumeral is c. So we need to get the value of c in this given situation. So the step that will be carried out, the fraction we have is c divided by 9. So for us to get the value of our pronumeral c, we multiply by 9 on both sides. So times 9 on the left hand side, multiply by 9 on the right hand side, so that we obtain c over 9 times 9 will be equal to 2 times 9. So 2 multiplied by 9 gives us 18 on the right hand side. Then on the left hand side, the 9 and 9 cancels out, and you are left with c is equal to 18. So the value of our pronumeral in this case is 18. Another example we have is 2y over 9 is equal to 2y over 9 is equal to 4, and we need to solve the equation systematically. So the fraction in this case that we have is 2 over 9 y, and we need to get the value of our pronumeral, which in this case is y. So solving this equation, our first step will be multiplying both sides by 9. Multiply our left hand side by 9. Multiply our right hand side by 9. So multiplication by 9 gives us 2y over 9. Multiply by 9, that is on the left hand side. On the right hand side, we have 4 multiplied by 9. The next, we find that 9 and 9 will cancel out, so that our next equation is 2y is equal to 9 times 4 gives us 36. So for us to get the value of y in this given equation, then the next step is dividing by 2 on both sides, so that I have divided by 2, divide by 2 on the right hand side. And when we divide by 2, it means that I have 2y over 2 will be equal to 36 divided by 2. 2 and 2 cancels out, so that you are left with y is equal to 36 divided by 2 gives us 18. So the systematic steps that are followed in order to solve this given equation, 2y over 9 is equal to 4. We are saying that the first step, multiply the left hand side by 9, multiply the right hand side by 9, so that you have 2y over 9 times 9 will be equal to 4 times 9. I've multiplied the left hand side, I've multiplied the right hand side. Then 9 and 9 cancels out, and that brings us to our second step. And our second step, we are having division by 2 on both the left hand side and right hand side of this given equation, so that when we divide by 2 on both sides of the equation, we discover that our value for y will be equal to 18. So those are the two steps that are followed in this given equation in order to obtain the value of our pronumeral. Another example we have is 5x over 2 is equal to 10. Our pronumeral in this case is x, and we need to get the value of x. So for us to get the value of x, the first step is multiply by the denominator on both sides. The denominator of our fraction in this case is 2. So we multiply by 2 on the left hand side, multiply by 2 on the right hand side, so that we will have 5 over 2x times 2 will be equal to 10 multiplied by 2. When we multiply, then it means 2 and 2 cancels out, and we are left on the left hand side with 5x is equal to 10 times 2 gives us 20. So we have 5x is equal to 20. Then from there, we need to get the value of x in our equation. And for us to obtain the value of x in this given equation, then the next step that we take is divide by 5 on the left-hand side and on the right-hand side. So we have division by 5. So divide by 5, divide by 5 on the right-hand side. So that we will have 5x divided by 5 is equal to 20 divided by 5. 5 and 5 cancels out, so that you are left with x is equal to 20 divided by 5 gives us 4. So in this case, our value for our pronumeral, which is x, is 4. So that if you try and substitute 4 in our equation, it should be equal to 10. So if, for instance, if we decide to prove if our equation is right or wrong, the equation we have is 5x over 2 is equal to 10. Just to confirm if our equation is equal to 10. So this means that this is 5. Our value for x is 4. So this is 5 times 4 divided by 2. 5 times 4 is 20. 20 divided by 2, and 20 divided by 2 gives us 10. So we discover that when x is equal to 4, then 5x over 2 will be equal to 10. So it is true that the value of our pronumeral in this given equation is 4. It is important to note that we've said when we have a fraction a over b, it simply implies that this is a divided by b. So in equations, we could be having different ways in which these fractions have been presented. For instance, if we are having such like a fraction a over 5, a over 5 then simply implies that this is a divided by 5. Supposing we have an equation like 4 plus a divided by 5. 4 plus a over 5. So if we have such like an equation, then this implies that there is an addition first before the division. So it means that we have 4 plus a, that is in brackets, divided by 5. So when we have two numbers in such like a manner, then it means we have 4 plus a first, then the solution of that addition is what is divided by 5. But we could have another situation whereby we have 4 plus a over 5. So that the division is not on 4. The division is on our pronumeral only. So if this division is on our pronumeral only, then it means that there is a 4 that is independent. Then in addition to that, we have a divided by 5. So there is a division of the 5 by the pronumeral first, then after the division has taken place, we add 5. A difference between this and that, we discover that here the 5 is dividing the sum of 4 and A. But in this case, our 5 is dividing our pronumeral only. It is not dividing the 4. So that is the difference between this and this given equation. So we need to work out fractions that are going to involve such like calculations in our working and find out what steps do we follow in order to get the solution to the given pronumerals. So let us look at the equations that are involving expressions of such like a manner. For example, an expression, we are talking about 4 plus A over 5. We are talking about 4 plus A over 5. And we've simply said that there is a difference in that when you have 4 plus A over 5, then it is the sum of the numerators divided by the denominator. But in this case, the 4 stands on its own, so that you are having the division of the pronumeral, which in this case is A. So we have A divided by 5, then the division is then added to 4. So let us look at some examples that are going to involve such like calculations. So we have the equation h plus 15 over 2 is equal to 12. And we need to solve the equation systematically. So when we need to solve the equation systematically, first let us look at our denominator. Is it covering all the numbers, or is it covering just one of the numbers? And we discover that our denominator on the left hand side is covering all the numbers. So it means that we are having the addition, then the division later on. So when they are combined, then we have the following steps to be followed. In this case, the first step that we will carry out is multiply by 2 on both sides, because the 2 is covering the whole of our numerator. So multiply by 2 on the left hand side, multiply by 2 on the right hand side, so that we have h plus 15 over 2 multiplied by 2 will be equal to 12 multiplied by 2. So 2 and 2 on the left hand side will cancel out, and you are left with h plus 15 will be equal to 12 multiplied by 2 gives us 24. So that for us to get the value of h, when we have a number that has been added on that side, if I need to eliminate that given number, then it means I subtract a digit on both sides. And the digit we are going to subtract in this case is 15. So the next step, we are having to subtract 15 on both sides. So this is minus 15 on the left hand side and minus 15 on the right hand side, so that we have h plus 15 minus 15 will be equal to 24 minus 15. H minus 15 minus 15 gives us, this one gives us 0, so that we are left with h on the left hand side. Then on the right hand side, 24 minus 15 gives us 9. Just to check if whatever we've solved is true or false, we substitute in our original information the value of our pronumeral that we've obtained. And our pronumeral that we have is h, and the value of h in this given equation is 9. So substituting in our original equation to find out if it is true or false, this is what we will do. So we need to substitute to confirm our answer, and this is what we are doing. In the equation, the point where we have h, we are substituting it with 9, so that we have 9. This is h plus 15, so we will have 9 instead of h plus 15 divided by 2. So what is 9 plus 15? From our addition algorithm, we find that 9 plus 15 will give us 24 over 2. And 24 divided by 2 from division algorithm, we know that 24 divided by 2 will give us 12. So this simply means that when our value for h is 9, then it is true for this equation that h plus 15 over 2 will be equal to 12 if our value for h is 9. So we are finding that when you are having the denominator covering all of the values on the numerator, then the first step that is carried out is multiplying both sides by the denominator. Multiply the left-hand side by the denominator, multiply the right-hand side by the denominator. Then after that, if you have an addition sign, then you will subtract the digit on both sides. If there is a subtraction, then we will add a digit on both sides. So that is the step that will be carried out. That is the first example. Let us look at the second example just to find out if we've understood whatever we are talking about or not. Another question we have, we have 7u minus 12 divided by 9 will be equal to 1. And we need to get the value of our pronumeral, which in this case is u. So finding the value of u in our equation, then the first step, since our denominator is covering all the figures on the numerator, then the first step is multiplying both sides by the denominator, and our denominator in this case is 9. So multiply the left-hand side by 9, multiply the right-hand side by 9. When we multiply by 9, this is what we obtain. We will have 7u minus 12 divided by 9 times 9 is equal to 1 multiplied by 9. When we multiply both sides by 9, then 9 and 9 on the left-hand side will cancel out, so that on the left-hand side, we are left with the following expression, that is 7u minus 12. Then on the right-hand side, 1 times 9, or 1 multiplied by 9, gives us 9. So we are having a subtraction. I need to remain, for us to remain on the left-hand side with 7u, then it means that we add both sides by 12. We add 12 on both sides. So this is 7u minus 12 plus 12 is equal to 9 plus 12. So the step we are taking is adding 12 on the left-hand side and on the right side. So adding 12 on the left-hand side and right-hand side, then we are left with 7u will be equal to 9 plus 12. 9 plus 12 is 21. Then we've not yet gotten the value of our prenumeral. Our prenumeral in this case is u. So for us to obtain the value of u, the next step that is carried out is division by 7. Divide by 7 on the left-hand side, divide by 7 on the right-hand side. So that we will have 7u over 7 will be equal to 21 divided by 7. And 21 divided by 7 gives us 3. So it means 7 and 7 cancels out, so that our value for u in this case is 3. So after getting the value of u, let us substitute in our equation and find out if the equation is true for our prenumeral when it is equal to 3. So when we are substituting in the equation, then we have, instead of u, we are substituting the value of u by 3. So that 7u minus 12 over 9 is equal to 1. Our u in this case is 3. We need to find out, is my left-hand side equal to 1, which is the value on the right-hand side. Let us find out the expression on the left-hand side if I substitute it with the value of prenumeral u with 3. So that 7u simply means 7 times u. So if my u is 3, then it means I have 7 multiplied by 3 minus 12 divided by 9. 7 multiplied by 3 gives us 21 minus 12 divided by 9. So we solve whatever is on the numerator first, and we get that 21 minus 12. When we subtract 12 from 21, then we are getting our value as 9. So 9 over 9, because our denominator is 9, 9 divided by 9 gives us 1. So our right-hand side, the value on the right-hand side is 1. So it corresponds with whatever answer that we've obtained at this given point. So that concludes, and that brings us to the conclusion that when the value of u is 3 in this given equation, then the solution of the left-hand side will be equal to 1. Another example. We are having 2q over 9 plus 2 is equal to 4. First, we notice that in this case, our denominator is not covering everything that is there on the left-hand side. So if our denominator is not covering everything, that the whole of the expression on the left-hand side, then this is the step that we take for us to come up to find the solution to our given prenumeral. The first step is we have plus 2 on this left-hand side of our equation, so that if I need to solve this equation, the first step that we carry out in this situation is we subtract 2 on both sides. So that I'm subtracting 2 on the left-hand side, I'm subtracting 2 on the right-hand side, because this is an addition. So we have 2q over 9 plus 2. We are carrying out a subtraction. Minus 2 on the left-hand side will be equal to 4 minus 2 on the right-hand side. So 2 minus 2 gives us 0, so that on the left-hand side we are left with 2q divided by 9 is equal to the right-hand side. 4 minus 2 gives us 2. So the equation that we come up with is 2q over 9 is equal to 2. So after having 2q over 9 is equal to 2, we need to get the value of our prenumeral q. So we are not yet there. So the next step is multiply both sides by the denominator. Remember we said we will multiply both sides by the denominator if our denominator covers everything that is on the numerator. So in this case, it is covering everything, that is our 2q. So this means that the next step to be carried out is multiply by 9, which is our denominator in that case on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side too, multiply by 9. So that we will have 2q over 9 times 9 will be equal to 2 multiplied by 9. So that 9 and 9 cancels out, and you're left with 2q is equal to 9 times 2 gives us 18. So if we need to get the value of q, the next step then is division by 2 on both sides. So divide by 2, divide by 2. So that our value for q will be equal to 18 divided by 2 gives us 9. So our value for q in that case is 9. So after getting the value of q, let us substitute in our original equation to find out if it really gives us a true equation. So substituting in our original equation, this is what we have. Our value for q is 9. So we are substituting q with 9. Where we have q, we are substituting it with 9. So that we will have 2q means that 2 times q. So this will be 2 multiplied by 9 divided by 9 plus 2. 2 times 9, 2 times 9 is 18. So we have 18 over 9, then plus 2. And 18 over 9 is simply 2. So we have 2 plus 2. And 2 plus 2 will give us 4. So our right-hand side is 4. And the solution to the left-hand side expression is also 4. So it means that when q is 9, then this equation is true. So our value for this equation to be true, then the value for q is equal to 9. So we have 12 is equal to 2z over 7, then plus 10. So at times when you have an equation that has been written in this manner, and we need to get the values of our prenumeral, then it is possible to swap your right-hand side with your left-hand side to make our calculation easier. So if I swap the right-hand side and the left-hand side, then we are obtaining that the right-hand side is 2z plus 7, then 2z over 7 plus 10, it will be equal to my value on the left-hand side that I'm swapping to the right-hand side is 12. So this equation, the first equation and the second equation are equivalent equations. We had looked at equivalent equations earlier on. And we said that an equation can be equivalent if it is possible to swap the right-hand side and the left-hand side. So having that, then we can go ahead through the steps of finding the value of our prenumeral, which in this case is z. So we have 2z over 7 plus 10 is equal to 12. So the first step is we take the 10 to the right-hand side, and that can simply be done by subtracting 10 on both sides. So subtract 10 on the left-hand side, subtract 10 on the right-hand side, so that we have 2z divided by 7 plus 10 minus 10 will be equal to 12 minus 10. So when we subtract 10 on both sides, then we are obtaining that we are left with 2z over 7 will be equal to 12 minus 10 is 2. Then after that, the next step is multiplying by the denominator on both sides, and our denominator in this case is 7. So multiply by 7 on the left hand side, multiply by 7 on the right hand side, so that we have 2z over 7 multiplied by 7 will be equal to 2 multiplied by 7. On the left hand side, 7 and 7 will cancel out. Then on my right hand side, we have 2 times 7. 2 times 7 is simply 14. The left hand side, I'm left with 2z. So for us to get the value of z on the left hand side, then it means we divide by 2 on both sides. So division by 2 on the left hand side, division by 2 on the right hand side, so that we have 2z over 2 will be equal to 14 over 2. So 2 and 2 cancels out, so that our value for z in this given equation should be 7. So after getting the value of z, let us try and substitute in our equation and find out. The original equation was that 12 is equal to 2z over 7 plus 10. So we need to find out if I try and substitute the value of z in this given equation, am I going to get 12 or not? So let us find out if it will give us the value that we are expecting. So that z is 7. Where I have z, I'm substituting it with 7. So I'll have 2 times 7 divided by 7 is equal to 10. Plus 10 should give us 12. Let us find out. This is 2z over 7 plus 10. So this is where I have z. I've substituted it with 7, so that I have 2 times 7 plus, 2 times 7 over 7 plus 10. So let us find out what is the value of this given expression. 2 times 7 is 14. 14 divided by 7 plus 10. And 14 divided by 7 is 2. Then plus 10. 10 plus 2 gives us 12. So you notice that the 12 I have on the left hand side is whatever I've obtained after substituting the value of our pronumeral, which in this case was z, and the value of z was 7. So substituting 7 in the equation, we obtain that the value of the expression on the right hand side of this given equation is equal to 12, which is the value that we are expecting when we are substituting. So that is the step that is taken in that given equation. So another situation that we could have is when you are given a situation, and from that situation you need to form an equation, then solve the given equation. For instance, we have the following situations that we need to form the given equation and then solve the equation to obtain the value of our pronumeral. So for instance, an example we are supposed to form So we have a number t is halved and the result is 9. When we have a number, then it simply means we are dividing by 2. So t is halved, it means that we have t divided by 2. Then the result is 9. So in this situation, t divided by 2 is the same as writing it as t over 2. And we are being told if we have the value of t, then the result will be 9. So our result is 9. So this is the equation that we have. We simply said that an equation is whereby you are having expressions, two expressions with an equal sign in between them to show that they have the same value. So t over 2 is equal to 9 is the equation that we have. We need to solve and get the value of t. So we are having t over 2 is equal to 9. The step that we need to carry out is the first step, multiply by 2 on this side, multiply by 2 on the right hand side, so that we have t over 2 times 2 will be equal to 9 times 2. So when we multiply, then 2 and 2 cancels out, so that on the left hand side we are left with t is equal to 9 times 2 gives us 18. So the number that we are looking for is 18. You discover that when you have 18, you will have the value of 9. So a number t is halved and the result is 9. So it means our number is 18. So we have gotten the value of our number in this given situation. Let us look at the second situation and find out what is required of us. The second situation, we have 1/3 of q is 14. So we need to find 1/3 of q. So the expression, we have 1/3 of q. Of simply means we multiply, so this means that we have 1/3 multiplied by q, and this expression is the same as q over 3. Because 1 times q is q, then we have the denominator is 3. So 1/3 of q is 14. So for us to form this equation, then we are talking about our expression is q over 3. Then it is equal to 14. And we need to get the value of q in this equation. So multiply by 3 on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, multiply by 3. By this moment, we should be aware that when we have such like an equation and you need to get the value of your pronumeral, you simply multiply both sides by the denominator, so that we have 3 and 3 will cancel out and you're left with q is equal to 14 times 3. That is 4 times 3 will give us 12. Carry 1, right, to carry 1, so that 3 times 1 is 3 plus 1, we have 4. So the value of our number is 42. And you notice that if you take 1/3 of 42, you're simply going to get 14. So we have a number r is doubled and then divided by 5. The result is 6. So the first step, we are doubling our number r. So double of r means we multiply by 2. So 2 times r is simply 2r. Then the next step, after our number has been doubled, the result is divided by 5. So it is then divided by 5. So we are having 2r divided by 5. So I have this 2r divided by 5. So this is the same as 2r over 5. So having that equation, expression, we are told that this number, when it is doubled then divided by 5, our result is 6. So we can form an equation from that, so that we have 2r over 5 will be equal to 6. Having worked out various equations that are of this nature, I believe that we can now move on together through the steps. The first step, 2r over 5 is equal to 6. What is our first step? In this case, our first step will be multiplying by 5 on both sides. So the left-hand side is multiplied by 5. The right-hand side is multiplied by 5. So that 5 and 5 cancels out. And on the left-hand side, we are left with 2r is equal to 5 times 6. What is the value? We get that the value is 30. So we need to get the value of r. The next step, we said that when we have such like an equation, the next step that is followed is dividing by 2. In this case, we are dividing by 2 on both sides, so that 2 and 2 cancels out, and you are left with r will be equal to 30 over 2, and 30 over 2 is 15. So the value of our number in this case is 15. That is, r is doubled. Doubling the number, it means we multiply by 2. Then it is divided by 5. That number that has been doubled is what is divided by 5. Then the result is 6. So forming the equation from that situation, we have 2r over 5 will be equal to 6. So solving this equation, we are obtaining that our value for r is 15. So we have another situation where 4 is subtracted from Q and the result is halved, giving a result of 3. So having 4 being subtracted from Q, so the expression where 4 is subtracted from Q, we have Q minus, then the result is halved. So it means that this is simplified first, then we half the result. So divided by 2. To half is simply to divide by 2. So this expression is simply the same as Q minus 4 all over 2. So when we have this equation, our result is 3. So the result being 3, so we need to simplify that, solve the equation. Q over 4 divided by 2 is equal to 3. What is our first step? Multiply by 2 on both sides. So multiply by 2, multiply by 2. We are multiplying by 2 because our denominator is covering everything on the numerator. This is q minus 4. It is not on q only. It is covering everything. So since it is covering everything on the numerator, we multiply both sides by the value of our denominator, which is 2. So 2 and 2 cancels out, so that we have q minus 4 is equal to 3 times 2 gives us 6. So 3 times 2 is 6. For us to get the value of q, we add 4 on both sides, so that we have q minus 4 plus 4 will be equal to 6 plus 4. Minus 4 plus 4 will give us 0, so that we are left with q will be equal to 6 plus 4 is 10. So the value of q in this given equation is equal to 10. So the number that we are looking for, where if I subtract that number, I subtract 4 from the number, that is 10. If I have 10 minus 4, then we are getting 10 minus 4. We are just trying to prove our equation, so that 10 subtract 4, 10 subtract 4 is 6. Then we have our result. The result is 6. 6 halved, it means 6 divided by 2. So 6 divided by 2 is 3, which is the result that we've been given in that given situation. So it means that the number that we are looking for is 10. So we are having a number y is divided by 4, and then 3 is added. So what is happening? Y is first divided by 4. So we have y divided by 4. Then after y has been divided by 4, 3 is added. So we add 3, and the result that is obtained is 5. So this is equal to 5. So that is the equation that we get from that given situation. What do we notice? In this case, our 4 is not covering everything on the left-hand side. So 4 is only dividing y. It is not dividing 3 in this given situation. So the first step will be getting to remove the 3 on the left-hand side, so that this is plus 3. For me to eliminate the 3 on the right-hand side, we subtract 3 on both sides, that is on the left-hand side. We subtract 3 on the left-hand side, subtract 3 on the right-hand side as our first step, so that we will have y over 4 plus 3 minus 3 will be equal to 5 minus 3. Plus 3 minus 3 gives us 0, so that we are left with y over 4 will be equal to 5 minus 3 is 2. I need to get the value of y, so that means multiply both sides by 4. So multiply the left-hand side by 4, the right-hand side by 4, so that our value for y is 2 multiplied by 4, and 2 multiplied by 4 gives us 8. So the number that we are looking for in this given situation is 8. So that if I have that given number, I divide the number by 4, so that this is 8 divided by 4, and 8 divided by 4 gives us 2, and then 3 is added to the number. So we have 2 plus 3, and 2 plus 3 will give us 5, which is the result that we've been given in that given situation. So we've been looking at equations that are involving fractions. And we are saying this in simple terms, that when you have any fraction, a divided by b, a over b simply means that it is a divided by b. So you need to check your fraction carefully before solving any given equation so that you find out where is your denominator. The denominator will determine the steps to be followed when you are solving the given equation. So that if, for instance, we have an equation 2x over 5 plus 3, we said that this is just 5 is dividing the 2x first. So that this means that we have 2x divided by 5, then the solution we add 3. But when we have an equation like 2x plus 3 all over 5, then it means in this case addition is done first, so that we have 2x plus 3 is then the answer is divided by 5. These two equations, for them to be solved, expressions I mean, if we have an equation that will involve the two expressions, then there are various steps to be followed. For instance, if I try to make an equation from whatever we have, in this case, I'm having the two expressions. We are making an equation from it, so that maybe our equation, we are saying that it is equal to 6. Let us make an equation that is equal to 6 and try and see what values are we getting for the two situations. So the first situation, we are having 2x over 5 is equal to 3. And we are saying the first step that should be taken in such like a situation, we subtract 3 on both sides, so that I have the left-hand side minus 3, the right-hand side subtract 3. We will obtain 2x over 5 will be equal to 6 times 6 minus 3 is 3. So that the next step will be multiply by 5 on the left-hand side and the right-hand side. And we obtain that 2x will be equal to 15. So that in this case, our value for x will be obtained by dividing by 2 on both sides. So that the value for x is 7.5. So this is for this situation. The second situation, the first step that is carried out is multiplication by the denominator, because our denominator is covering everything on the left-hand side. So you first start by multiplying the denominator on both sides, which is 5, so that we have 5 and 5 cancelling out, and you're left with the 2x plus 3 will be equal to 6 times 5 is 30. Then the next step is subtract 3 on both sides, so that we have minus 3 on the left-hand side and minus 3 on the right-hand side. So we will obtain 2x will be equal to 30 minus 3 gives us 27. So that x will be obtained by division by 2 on both sides, and the value of x will be 13.5. So you notice that the values for x in the two equations are different, because this 5 is, in this case 5 is only on 2x, but here 5 is on 2x plus 5. So you get that the procedures that are taken, or the steps followed in the two equations, are different. So you need to analyze the given situation carefully and find out which is the correct step to be followed in order to get the solution to the given polynomial. With that, it brings us to the end of our lesson today, hoping that you will be in a position to solve any equation involving a fraction in case you come across it. Thank you.